Hi, I'm Mark from Maxava. I'm going to present some information about our products. Maxava HA release update, February 2021. This enhancement enabled triggers and constraints at configuration shutdown. Triggers and constraints are managed when the configuration is activated. Any enabled triggers or constraints are disabled and the details are registered in the configuration database. Only during roll swap, failover, or simulated roll swap is enable function performed. Customers performing backups on their backup database copies in a normal backup role will have the triggers and constraints saved in a disabled state. An enhancement has been added to the configuration end request that now allows the enable of triggers and constraints to be performed if requested when the configuration is shut down. An audit trail is included in the enhancement and will be reviewed from the Work with Audits display and look for type *DB RESET. You will see on the Maxava end configuration request that the new parameter enables triggers and constraints has been added. By default, this is *No. If you do wish to enable your triggers and constraints, then set the parameters to *Yes when ending the configurations. If you do use the end functionality and enable triggers and constraints, always review and check the audit log, *DB reset. Check and verify that the triggers and constraints have been enabled as required. If you see any exceptions, these need to be followed up on before continuing with using the database. Another enhancement in this PTF, touch access paths after restore. When a physical file is resynced, this can trigger a rebuild of the dependent logical files. For most smaller files, this is a brief process. However, larger files will take a long time, and this can affect the I/O processing events that cause them to fail while access paths are being rebuilt. The enhancement to the resync process will include an open for related logical files associated to the physical, forcing the rebuild of the access path before the restore is deemed complete, which will then allow the I/O replication to be unaffected. Change default detail for description audits. A description audit can run with either detailed *STD standard or detailed advanced *ADV to check the object attributes. The advanced setting checks more attributes than the standard detail. When the advanced option was added, the description audit default was left at the standard as existing setups were familiar with this information. From feedback from our customers, we've decided to set the advanced *ADV as a default value. Using the audit command MXAUDTA, you'll now see that the audit details is now set as a *ADV advanced, whereas previous this used to be a default of *standard. In this PTF enhancement, how long will it take to clear backlog? Even though the Maxava HA delivers a world-class performance, there are times when there can be backlog transactions records showing in the related backup configuration status. As an enhancement for data and IFS configuration types, the backlog will now include a timestamp for clear backlog value. The method used to produce the calculations is difference between data and IFS. For data, we can use existing details collected from the local journaling on the target system, but for the IFS, this cannot always be used as the same way. As such, the IFS has a new property entry, IFS ST80. This can be set for all IFS or named IFS configurations and controls the collection process of data sampled and the period and how much data will be retained. If the property exists, then this functionality collection is on. If the property does not exist or is moved, then it is turned off for IFS. The IFS stats property has a default sampling value of 60 seconds and has an expiration data of 60 minutes. The new features does not include QDLS or MQ, and if you're using the MX retrieve command functionality, it is defined in seconds. From the configuration status display, you'll now see an extra column at the bottom of the display, estimated time to process backlog. This was shown in hours, minutes, and seconds. It is both available for data and IFS. However, for the IFS process, for this estimate value to be collected and processed, you will also need the property file for IFS to be enabled. If you're using the collection functionality for IFS, the property is IFS stat. You can use it as a general rule to cover all IFS configurations, or you can set it up as a configuration rule and specify your configuration name that you want to gather and collect the data across. The default values is a sampling in 60 seconds and the expiration of the data in 60 minutes. If the property does not exist or if the property is removed, then the stats collection for IFS is no longer processed. An enhancement, omit IFS objects using a pattern. The enhance omit capability for IFS data now includes pattern support. With pattern omit, you do not need to include a directory. Any object or subdirectory can now be omitted by specifying the pattern match. Some examples: if you set a pattern star.log, anything ending in .log will be omitted. If you set a pattern omit net star, any object starting with net will be omitted. Other items that have been addressed: ensuring Maxava objects have workable authorities. We will now set authorities when we use temporary objects or permanent objects in the configuration database. Changes to how subsystem information is replicated. This now no longer requires locks on the target subsystem to make changes. Configuration cleanup for assignments has been addressed. Ending QDLS configuration with star amide causes a signal abnormal end. This has been corrected. Issues removing paths from replication where different CSIDs have been used for the create and remove from the profiles has now been corrected. For full details, please refer to the cover letter for all details. The features mentioned in this video are available from the following Maxava software versions by installing the related PDF. Thank you for your time.